And all of the violence and chaos we saw during those riots last year, we saw some of the best in humanity as well. People and groups reaching out to try and support each other. One moment captured live on Spectrum News inspired the community to look toward healing. Spectrum News managing editor Sean Flynn takes a look at the protester and CMPD lieutenant who gave us this hug of hope.
The best way that I can describe it was that it was really surreal.
CMPD Lieutenant Julie Berry still can't believe what she witnessed firsthand last September on the streets of Charlotte.
You had asked me a year ago if this would have ever happened here in Charlotte, I would have said absolutely not. So to be in the middle of that, like I said, it was just very surreal feeling.
Lieutenant Berry shuttled officers in riot gear that first night in the university area. On the other side of the police line, Christine Slade.
It's kind of one of those gut instincts where it's just like, I feel like I should be here.
The police shooting of Keith Scott stirred something inside the 19-year-old UNC Charlotte student.
I'm a black female, so in my head I'm like, that could have been my brother or that could have been my dad. And so that was where I got mad.
Not mad at police in general. The daughter of a career staff sergeant was instilled with too much respect for authority for that. No, the political science major, who herself is headed for a career of service in the military, was mad at the idea of staying silent. Safely tucked away in her dorm room while the streets of uptown Charlotte erupted in chaos and confusion.
I was mostly upset more than scared, but scared was like the first gut reaction.
Both knew the moment this protest turned.
First time I got hit with tear gas, that really scared me because I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't breathe, my eyes were watering. It was just like I was paralyzed for a second.
When tear gas is being deployed and you can smell it and you can feel like it feels like you're choking on it almost, sure, that's not an easy feeling.
That first night, protesters injured 15 CMPD officers. Brothers in blue for Lieutenant Berry.
It's probably one of the worst feelings. That's one of the things that burns in your memory, so to speak, for years and years to come. That's a horrible feeling.
Slade would peacefully protest and diligently document the next 4 nights of unrest.
5'1".
You're 5'1".
Yeah.
How old are you?
19. Honestly, I wasn't thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking about my safety or anybody else's safety. I was just there. I was just trying to experience what could happen.
Not knowing, the anonymous college student lost in a sea of uncertainty, and a faceless lieutenant in riot gear would soon become an internationally recognized and enduring symbol of hope amid the whirlwind of chaos unraveling in Charlotte.
It was just a moment of being human, really.
A hug of hope. Sean Flynn, Spectrum News.
Both Lieutenant Berry and Slade say that moment, that hug, changed their lives forever. We'll take a look at what it meant for them Thursday beginning at 5. Anger, fear, and sadness. All emotions felt during 3 violent days of protests last September. But in the middle of it all, a moment of inspiration. A protester and CMPD officer in riot gear hugging. 1 year later, Spectrum News managing editor Sean Flynn spoke with both of them about how that moment meant so much more than just a hug.
For 3 nights in September, 1 year ago,
There's moments in a police officer's career that stay with you.
typically tranquil uptown Charlotte turned into a war zone.
This was, I would say, one of the more impactful moments that I've had in my 21 years, and I'll never forget it.
As veteran CMPD Lieutenant Julie Berry led a tactical team outfitted in full riot gear into place to keep the peace.
We were tasked with preventing the protesters from getting onto the interstate and causing any kind of chaos on the interstate.
Right in the middle of that crowd, UNC Charlotte sophomore Christine Slade. She was peacefully protesting, taking videos and notes.
One person threw a liquid at the police. I don't know if it was water. I don't know what the substance was, but I saw that and I was like, they should not be treated like that.
That's when fate created a moment.
She was just standing there and somebody had like walked up to her face and started saying something directly to her, and it was very rude. And so After they had left, I walked up to her.
So she's hesitantly walking toward me, and I can see this, so I start to, kind of look around her to make sure it's okay for me to start to approach her. And I think as I take a couple of steps toward her, she realizes that it's probably okay for her to come toward me, and then we just meet.
And I said,
"Can I hug you?"
"Can I pray for you?" And she said, "Yes."
She's very emotional, very emotional.
The second we hugged, I just busted into tears. And that was that.
That was touching for me.
30 poignant seconds captured live on Spectrum News. The image later posted on social media went viral.
It was life-changing.
Slade appeared on national TV, and the hug gave the budding writer new material.
I ended up writing about 4 pieces just from that week of protesting alone, and 3 of them happened to go national, and I've been published in a couple countries because of it. So that hug really did do a lot for me.
A moment of peace in the chaos, a moment both say they'll never forget.
I felt like I knew her my entire life just from that one hug, and I don't even know her first name, but I felt like we connected, not only just like in a hug, but it's like we were here for each other. We were supporting each other.
For that moment of embracing and her praying and her being very emotional was, heartfelt.
A year later, the two, who never met or spoke again, agreed to meet up for this story.
Honestly, I'm genuinely curious.
I'm looking forward to seeing her. Like I said, we captured a moment. You guys captured a moment that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Sean Flynn, Spectrum News.
You can watch that reunion between the protester and the police officer Friday, beginning at 5. One hug, one moment. A year after a protester and CMPD officer embraced in the middle of all of that chaos, they reunite to talk about what that hug means to them. In the Spectrum News special report, Hug of Hope, managing editor Sean Flynn sits down with the two and just lets them talk.
I walked up to her and I said, "Can I hug you and pray for you?"
An unscripted moment of unity broadcast live on Spectrum News.
Is it a message of inspiration and hope? Absolutely.
1 year later, in a drastically different setting, the story of a 19-year-old college student and the 21-year police force veteran who shared a symbolic hug that helped to unite a city began to write itself.
Yes.
I'm Christine Slade.
I'm Julie Berry.
Nice to meet you.
Christine Slade and Julie Berry sat down in First Ward Park and just talked.
It's nice. You definitely look a lot different. No helmet or riot gear on. Less threatening this time. But it's definitely nice. I think it's long overdue.
Surreal being out there. If you had asked me a year ago if I would have thought that, I'd be standing, pushing people off of 277, I would have said absolutely not.
I am black, so every time something like this pops up in the news, it's always like, wow, like, I wonder if that could have been like my friend or my brother. Like, it was a little scary for me because it was just so much at once. Like, I've never been to a protest before, so I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was even wearing the right clothes or anything.
So what prompted you, I guess, to single me out and come toward me? I noticed you walking toward me hesitantly.
When I saw that person throw something, I was like, that's not okay. I didn't know who to approach. I didn't know if I could approach. I didn't know if something was going to happen to me if I approached. And then we just happened to make eye contact, and I was like, okay,
right.
There it is. And so that's when I just walked up to you, and I was like, can I hug you and pray for you? And so that's how that happened.
As police officers, you have these moments in your career that impact you in a variety of different ways, and that's something in a positive light that will stay with me forever. I'll never forget it.
What was running through your mind when you saw me walk up to you?
So I do remember kind of looking to the officers to the right of me saying, no, this is okay, because I was feeling that from you.
I was trying to figure out a way to approach you with being, again, the most respectable way possible. I didn't just want to walk up and just attempt to hug you and then end up being on the ground or something. The hug went viral. So for me, it's been a huge impact on my life. From that entire week of protesting, because I was out there every day, I was able to get a lot of different pieces and poems written. And so I think the first thing that happened was the fact that I went viral on Instagram, I went viral on Facebook, and I was on the news every night. So for me, that was the first big thing. And then 4 of my poems actually got picked up and published. For me, as a 19-year-old, I never pictured that I would be a published author, especially for my poems from that event.
No, I didn't think I would be a social media star by any means. It's to be a part of creating, as you say, hope for a community who really needed it at that time, I think it's humbling.
People would just come up to me and be like, thank you. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, you did what I wouldn't do.
Yeah, it's nice to, in a different setting, to be able to see up close and personal the person who, like I said, you know, helped create a moment in my career or in life, really, that will stay with me.
Can we have a picture?
Yes, absolutely.
You, because I know how. One more picture.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you.
One more hug.
Best of luck with
Before they go back to living their lives better for that one moment, a hug of hope. Sean Flynn, Spectrum News.